I recently came into possession of the VOCATION Brewery Mixed Showcase Selection, so my options for drinking beer have become a lot more varied over the next week. So I've got quite the treat before me. I'm not going to try and drink all of these VOCATION beers in one go. That would be a rather bold effort, even for me at my best of times. What I'm going to do instead is split the beer offering here into a few groups to try and make it a bit more manageable, and also make it a bit easier for you to find exactly what review it is you're looking for if you do have particular beers that you want to take into it in a bit more detail. Chico, you're right there. Here in front of me, I've got 3 of the beers from that selection box, and I've started with these ones because they're more part of the core selection. They're part of that core offering. They've got that core, consistent core branding across the 3 cans. So what we've got here first is the Heart and Soul. This is a session IPA, and it has the unusual quality of also being gluten-free, so fine for all of you celiacs out there. We've also got this, Love and Hate. This is a New England IPA sitting at 7.2%, so quite punchy in terms of the alcohol content, but pipped to the post just slightly by this juicy boy, Smash and Grab, 8% ABV. This is a double IPA, so we're expecting an awful lot of juicy, fruity hop character in this one. So as I said, Heart and Soul is where we're kicking things off. This is a gluten-free session IPA, which means for all those celiac beer fans out there, this could be the answer to a lot of your troubles. It's 4.4%, slightly on the stronger side for a session beer, but still something that I can, personally, I can be drinking comfortably for at least 2 or 3 across the course of an evening. Let's crack it open and see what we're working with. So as we pour, let's talk a little bit about the packaging. This is part of what looks like it is VOCATION's core range. So it's the standard sort of curly cursive text on a black label with sort of white detailing. So in that sense, not a great deal to talk about, and we cover a lot of it, to be honest, talking about the other beers. So it's not a huge pressure to talk about the design on the can. With the beer itself, we've got a clear, I would say, sort of not entirely bright. There's still a little bit of a haze to it, but a pretty clear golden beer with a thick white head. So for a gluten-free beer, there's an awful lot of bread on the aroma there, an awful lot of bready notes on the nose. But there's also a lot of hops coming in as well. It's quite grassy. It's a little bit sort of dank smelling, but there's also a whole load of citrus flavours in there. There's a lot of lemon, a little bit of passion fruit perhaps, a little bit of grapefruit, and perhaps a touch of pineapple. So the palate there starts with a sort of biscuity, malty sweetness, but then very rapidly it's overwhelmed by that hop character, particularly citrus. So a lot of lemons, lemon drops, grapefruit, a little bit of grapefruit rind bitterness in there, but only very slightly. Passion fruit, pineapple, all these lovely tropical and citrus flavours. And then on the finish, as that sort of hoppy aroma dissipates and you're left with the aftertaste, then the malt really wins out and you get that really intense rush of malty, biscuity flavours. A touch of astringency, it's a little bit drying and it leaves the mouth a little bit dry afterwards, but that only serves to make you want to go in for another sip. You know, there's no way, if you serve this to me blind, there's no way I'd be able to identify, yes, that's a gluten-free beer. So if you are looking to replicate that full drinking experience, if you are gluten intolerant in some way and you're looking for a tasty beer to go for, I'd absolutely heartily recommend this one. Next, we move on to this, Love and Hate. This is a New England IPA, 7.2%, which is why I've made the switch to a slightly more moderate glass for the tasting here. I do have 3 of these beers to get through in the afternoon. Drink responsibly, kids. Now, this is New England IPA, so we're expecting it to be quite hazy, very juicy, very full of that hop character that you'd expect from a New England IPA. In this particular instance, the brewery VOCATION described this beer as being juicily crushable, which is something that immediately gives me pause and makes me think I should probably stay away. But we're committed, we're doing this review, let's give it a try. So the characteristics we're looking out for here in particular, given this is a New England IPA, is it's the hop additions and really sort of powerful level of hop additions there, but also the thickness and the mouthfeel, and the oats and the wheats added there to bring it to sort of a much thicker, much more rounded beer. What we've got here is a pretty cloudy pale orange beer with a quite loose foam on the head. And when I say it's cloudy, I'm pretty sure it's got bits in it. There's like a significant amount of sediment in this beer, and particularly in the taster I tried while I was making the notes for this review, I did then pour out the whole can into a glass and ended up with quite a few sort of sandy grains of sediment. So if that's something that you find off-putting, something to watch out for. Of course, you can just learn from my mistakes and pour it a bit more carefully and end up with a much smoother drinking experience. So the aroma here is not terribly far off a mimosa. It's slightly boozy, and there's a little bit of white grape in there, but mostly I'm getting peach juice, maybe a little bit of orange juice, and honestly a bit of oat flour, just reinforcing the level of oat additions that we've got in here to try and thicken up that mouthfeel. All right, so it definitely tastes 7.2. There is that sort of warming booziness to it, which is not overwhelming, it's not overpowering like you might find in a sort of triple IPA or something, like a barley wine where it's sort of the primary characteristic, but it's definitely there. Something that I appreciate, but admittedly is not going to be to everybody's taste. I'm also getting an intense amount of that hop character. Those peachy notes that we picked up on the aroma, that orange as well. Really powerful sort of like fruit flavours there, and also some a little bit of resin character as well, which is not what I was expecting from a New England IPA, the sort of thing I'd normally expect to find over on the West Coast. That fruit character clings tenaciously onto the finish, and it really does linger on, which is again a reflection of the strength, the amount of alcohol behind this beer. So while Love and Hate is very hop forward and has a lot of these fruity, juicy flavours, it also brings with it some resin and some bitterness that you might expect to find more readily in a West Coast IPA. So in that sense, it's a bit of a hybrid. It's got the cloudiness and the fruitiness of an East Coast beer, but on the other hand, it's not quite as thick as some of the beers you'd expect from a sort of New England tradition. It's got a bit more bitterness to it. It's not pure fruit juice, as some of these beers tend to be. So in terms of pairing suggestions, there's a few ways you could go with this. It's got enough hop character and enough sort of complexity, and it's got enough of that sort of bitterness and sweetness that it could go with quite a few. It holds its own against quite a few things. A fatty bit of charcuterie, for instance, could go very nicely with this. But equally, a relatively mild, soft goat's cheese could pair very beautifully as well. One interesting pairing suggestion I've heard for New England IPA actually is ceviche. Where you've got a lot of that mango and sort of lime, orange, lemon character to it that sort of amplifies and supports those same flavours in the beer. And I think this beer in particular is sort of giving me that kind of vibe. It suggests that it may be an interesting pairing for this one. Laurel and Hardy, Morecambe and Wise, French and Saunders, Smash and Grab. As far as iconic duos go, I'm not sure how this is going to measure up, frankly, but I'm interested to find out. This is VOCATION's double IPA, an IPA so nice they hopped it twice. So we're expecting an awful lot of hop character from this beer. They've described it themselves as an explosive hop bomb. Now hopefully that's not going to explode in the same way that some excessively fruited beers may have been in the past. But we're expecting a lot of flavour in this beer, a lot of hop character, whether that's a combination of that fruity flavour, but maybe a little bit of grassy, dank character to it as well. Now at 8%, you will forgive me for once again only pouring a small portion of this beer. Again, I do have to make it through the rest of this review. So we're faced here with a slightly hazy, but mostly translucent sort of golden beer with a loose white head on top. The aroma is intensely tropical. So there's passion fruit dominating on there, but also a little bit of mango, supported again by sort of some more of those tropical fruit flavours, that pineapple, maybe even, dare I say it, guava. So there's a lot more of that fruity sweetness on the palate, that passion fruit, that guava, that pineapple, all of those flavours sort of contributing to a sweet tropical fruit salad. But that's balanced to some degree by a level of bitterness as well that's come in, again, from that very strong hop addition. There's also a level as well of malty sweetness that You don't really necessarily pick up on the nose. It's overwhelmed somewhat by the hops on the nose, but you do pick it up on the palate. That all sort of culminates in a very sweet, almost concentrated, syrupy finish. It's like candied peel. It's like sort of crystallized orange peel as we finish. It takes you on a bit of a journey. It's not entirely sweet as you go through. There's all that fruitiness there, but also the bitterness. There's also a little bit of sort of malt character to it as well. There's an awful lot going on. In terms of recommendations, I think this is a very complex beer. There's a lot going on here. And it's almost a shame to detract from it. So it sort of deserves attention on its own. And so it's the sort of thing I'd recommend sort of savouring slowly, potentially splitting with a friend once that's legal to do so again, and really enjoying the experience, enjoying the complexity of this beer. Certainly in terms of the packaging, it's a bit unassuming. It looks like a core range beer, but when you taste it, you realise there's an awful lot of complexity. There's an awful lot going on underneath that fairly bland label. So definitely one to seek out and savour. That's about enough from me. What I want to hear now is, what did you think? Have you tried these beers? Do you have a particular favourite? Are you a big fan of VOCATION as a brewery? Are there other gluten-free beers that you think are interesting and that I should try, that I should review on this channel? Whatever your thoughts, let me know in the comments below or drop me an email. And as always, if you liked this review, please do check out the rest of the videos on my channel, and of course go to brewreport.co.uk where I post fresh beer reviews every week. And until I see you next time, happy drinking.